So I don't lose sight of what I want.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned in to the house. I will be your host, Mika Legacy, and I'm here with none other. You can see my brother, you can see a mentor, Coach Emil. So welcome to the house. It's a pleasure and honor to have you.
Thank you.
So how's life been? It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Yeah, we were just talking about how we've actually known each other for almost a decade. And,
Yes, we have. Yes,
yeah.
we have. Man, that's a really long time. Because Pathways, when I was there, I feel like we got cheated, man. I don't understand. No, honestly, because my sister, the youngest one, she got a MacBook. I'm like, how did you get a MacBook?
Yeah, so this year's graduating class, everybody got a MacBook, which was a donation from Shopify.
Man,
And we're trying to do that every year from now on. But we struck a partnership with Shopify.
okay.
And so they gave every student that graduated this year who is going on to university or college, either a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did that really come to be? Like, you have to be in a program, and what are the qualifications for that?
Yeah, well, you know the program, you know Pathways to Education, you know that we, in order to be in the program, you have to live in one of our low-income catchment areas, and so you enter the program by postal code.
Okay.
And so obviously the community that is my biggest community is Britannia Woods. And then there are other support workers that work in other communities, but this is my main community. So that's how I come to know your whole family really well, and be a part of this community house and really feel connected here. So this feels like home to me. So I'm really happy to be here today because I got a lot of love for Ritchie.
Man, we were happy to have you because you have impacted the community, like, as you can see, from me to my youngest sister, and there's even more to come. Like, man, so it's been heavy. So how did you get into coaching? Like, what inspired you first?
So the coaching, so I guess I started coaching because I was getting older, and when you love basketball, as you get older, there are fewer opportunities to play. But I wanted to continue to be involved, and I've had a passion for youth work for a long time, and I see basketball as a way of working with youth. So basketball is, for me, more than, I don't mean to sound cliche, but it's more than just a game.
Okay.
Basketball in my life has been a teacher, and I like to coach that way. It just brings you together with a group, and if you are connected to that group and you're teaching, and you're not just teaching basketball, but you're teaching life skills, and you're using it as an opportunity to teach people how to be in the world, so that when they're done playing, some of the relationships, some of the things that you taught them, some of those experiences translate into their life in different ways. So it's not just about basketball, it's about coming together and doing one thing, one activity, and maybe for somebody else I always like to make the comparison between training for basketball and training for like a martial art. It has that spiritual component to it for me, and I like to try to pass that on when I'm coaching. So I really talk about basketball and like the basketball gods and the karma of the game, the spirit of the game, and how if you give your energy to basketball and you commit to it, if you really do love it and you're a baller, it will give you things back that transcend just playing just the game. So it's really, for me, a way of working as a mentor and connecting with young people, and it's an opportunity. I think at the end, it's really an opportunity to be able to say to a young person, I see what you did, I see how you committed, and I admire you for that. And I want you to know that you deserve some praise for that. And let's continue to do more of that. So that they have that one person, at least that one person in their life that is a dependable mentor who's positive and who admires you. Like I think especially for young men, there's, and we can get into it, but I think there's a lack of older men in their lives saying, I appreciate you and I value you.
And also mentorship and looking out for them, because you have to pour into the younger generation, because at the end of the day, when your time is up from this earth, all that you have instilled in them and all the time that you have put in will help in the long run. So those are the things.
You just try to be there for them. You don't know what the impact's going to be, but you try to make the impact positive. I don't want anyone to leave feeling like they didn't get a positive experience, or I didn't at least try. So even in my coaching style, I don't like to be overly negative. I'm not really a yeller unless I'm trying to make a point. But that's not my style. It's really more about rapport building, about relationship, about bringing people together. And it's always been community-based for me. I've never made a lot of money as a coach. I've never charged a young person for a training session. I don't believe in that. That's not why I do it. The energy that I get back is my fulfillment. So it's really a labor of love. So when I was in Toronto, I started coaching. I had a pretty successful prep program.
Okay.
And
what was the name of the prep school?
It was the John Innes Lions Academy. It started out as Eastern Commerce Prep, and then Eastern Commerce is a big time basketball school. It's now closed in Toronto, and then I had a gym in an area called Moss Park, which is adjacent to Regent Park. Coincidentally, that's where Pathways to Education originally started. Was in Regent Park, yeah. So just down the road from Regent Park is an area called Moss Park, and there's a gym there called John Innes, and so I had a basketball program there called the John Innes Lions. We called it the John Innes Lions Basketball Academy, and from that program, upwards of 25 youth were able to go on to post-secondary education, some getting scholarships. But coming from that program, and before I left, the Raptors actually renovated the gym. So I feel like that's a legacy to those teams. So when I left there, I came to Ottawa, and I coached at Ottawa U, the University of Ottawa, for about 9 years.
Yeah, because I always heard your name all the time, Coach Mika. I'm like, I didn't know this guy was a coach. I know him as a ball player. But as a coach, I'm like, okay, cool. Because he says a lot when you have a lot of your players, like exactly saying your name a lot of time, how much you have, impacted them in a positive way, as you have said. Because a lot of times you can have a coach, but it's not as you would want it probably to be, because you're looking for advice, especially when you're in the learning process, to becoming the greatest as you can be, or the best as you can be in that process. So having a coach that's more than a coach, that's a mentor, that's a teacher, that's a helper, that teaches you certain things that's beyond basketball, because outside of basketball there's life, but you have to go outside and live. So it really helps. So my other question is that how was it like for you to have someone else coach you before you became a coach? How was that experience like?
I didn't have a lot of positive experiences with coaches personally. I think there are more positive coaches now. I think the way that coaches do their job has changed, actually. And that might be a result of just maybe how there's like a cultural shift in how coaches are interacting with their players. But the old school coach was my coach, and those coaches were yellers, and they weren't really interested in connecting. So I didn't have a lot of positive coaches growing up. The way that I was influenced in basketball actually came through my friendships.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my best friend is a very successful coach. And he and I, since we were young, have been talking about the way that we believe basketball can be a powerful teacher in somebody's life, and so I've kind of grown alongside him in the coaching. So he's actually one of my main sources of inspiration. So we were just talking about the basketball program that I've been helping out with in Oshawa.
Okay.
It's a new university program at Ontario Tech University, and and so I've been supporting him in building the program.
Okay.
This is his program,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah, when I answer questions, I kind of,
Hey, there's no problem. I love this one because it's a train of thought.
Yeah.
And it also helps to keep it more entertaining because if we just like, when did you become a coach 2 years ago? You'll be like, what's
Yeah.
the point of that? Straightforward is good, but sometimes people need a bit more in depth
yeah.
to the journey.
Well, I guess the reason I talk about it this way is because I didn't get into coaching because I had a positive coach, but maybe I got into coaching because I had a positive teacher. I was almost a high school dropout, and I moved to what we call in Toronto an alternative school. We call them alternate schools here, and I found a teacher there who just I really vibed with and was kind of anti-establishment. So it was a female teacher, and she was able to convince me that there was another way of teaching, and I think that's informed because I became a teacher. That informed my decision to become a teacher, the way that I teach, how I design curriculum, how I interact with my class, how I, all of those things, and that's also part of how I coach. So the reason that I talk about these things in this kind of roundabout way is because it's all happened organically for me. I'm where I am in my life today because I've just followed my heart, not because I've made decisions based on the amount of money I want to make. It's really just about following what I feel is right and how I can be a positive person in the world.
That's dope. You are really positive because a lot of times my sister, after my brother, she's always talking about, oh, how great. Like, she goes to Pathways because you're one of the reasons to why she's there. Other than that, before, she would not go. Especially when she had, like, a previous, someone who looks over her.
Yeah, student parent support worker.
There we go. So having that, like, she didn't like the one that she had before you came in the picture. So as you came through, she was just so happy all the time. She's always like, Emil. I'm like, man.
She was a great student, though, and a great person. So, yeah, I appreciate that because I she was one of my favorite students.
Oh, it means a lot, really, because me being a Brigo brother, having someone that also helps me in that area, it helps a lot, and it makes everything around us, be a lot better, and we hope for even greater things.
Like, part of the work here also is working with families. So I know that you've been talking to Jean David, JD, and I'm a huge fan of his mothers.
Those are my dudes right there.
Yeah.
Those are my dudes.
Yeah, as an example of how for me my work is also with families. So that's a big part of it for me.
That's the thing, because at the end of the day, we are all a big family.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we keep staying with that happy, positive family going on and helping each other move forward, especially when you have a goal and you have a vision of where you want to be. When you have guys who can go ahead and facilitate that, it helps a lot.
Well, and the parents want feedback too, right? They want to know how their child is doing and how you're supporting them, because really, you're working with the family, not just with the youth. So that's a really important dialogue for me, and I had it with your dad.
That's my
We're
right
talking about Charles. Everybody knows Charles. He's a legend too. So that's a big part of it.
Okay, that's really dope.
So yes, that mother gave me her blessing. Shout out to her.
Okay, that's what's up. So when you have a son, don't forget my name, Mika. I'll be waiting.
I'll put it on the list for sure.
No
It's
problem.
a good name. It's a solid
No
name.
problem. I'll be waiting. So that way I'll be like, Uncle's here.
Yeah.
But that's dope. So are you still back in Oshawa coaching, or are you here?
So really my role with that program was helping build the program, because it's the first year that this university's had a men's and women's basketball program. So I worked on building the men's program, which means all of the recruiting had to be done, designing some of the programming that we were going to need to use throughout the year, collaborating with Coach Francis, who's the head coach, and and it also means like when you talk about recruiting, there's a lot in there because you have to identify the players that you think are going to be a good fit. You're not just bringing in anyone; you're trying to match them. And then I brought 3 players from Ottawa. So, like just trying to get everybody together, and then we have to go through their transcripts and get them in the school, help them pick courses, make sure that they've applied for their funding. There's just so many things. Get into housing. So, a lot of that work I did in the evenings or on the weekends while I was doing Pathways to Education. So I stay busy, but that's all done now. We just had our first practice, and I was there on Friday for that. And so I'm working on my schedule, which will mainly be a weekend schedule where I'll go to Oshawa and I'll do specific things. Like I might do a couple of clinics on specific skills for the players that fit into how we're developing the program. So we're working on that now. So I'll have a specific schedule in the hours that I'm free, and then I'll be at specific games as well. But a lot of the work I'll do from here for now.
Okay, so usually when it comes to the games or the training, somewhat you're gonna be living on a weekend or be there on a weekend.
Yeah, it'll be mainly weekends, and then I'll be doing things remotely. Like I have a constant line of communication with Coach Francis where we're talking about what we're doing, and I'm giving my feedback, and then when season starts, I'll be doing scouts and monitoring players' academic progress and basketball development. So a lot of the stuff I'll be doing basically through my phone. So I'm in a couple of chat groups with specific players. I'm in a team chat group. I communicate with 3 or 4 players on a regular basis who are going to need additional support. And so, yeah. And, so 2 of those players actually played on our Ritchie basketball teams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How far back was that?
Grady Kanku played with JD.
Okay.
We won a championship that year for Summer League, and that was 3 seasons ago, if you count this past season that just ended.
Okay.
Yeah, so he played on that team. That was a really good team, probably one of my favorite teams. And that year we won junior and senior. That was the first time I coached both junior and senior. And then Nelly Hussein played on Ritchie this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the recruitment, how long exactly is that?
How long did it take?
Yeah.
I started doing it last fall.
Okay.
That's when they announced that they were going to be starting the program, and they hired Coach Francis, and then he reached out to me, and then we took it from there. So yeah, almost a year to the day, really. We started talking to players.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to have more players on the team from Britannia Woods.
Okay.
So there were 2 or 3 actually other recruits who I was talking to, but things went in a different direction, and they didn't join our program. But the idea was to really give players coming up through the Pathways to Education program who played on our Ritchie teams move on to this experience, and then to have that be a continuity. So it kind of worked that way, but it is a business, and it's and I'm not the head coach, so it's not always possible to do that. But we had to recruit 16 players, and that was it was a lot of work. So we'll see how they do this year, but I think we're going to surprise some people.
But that's great, because you being there it's literally you have opened a door and you have given like those people in these areas or other areas access to come through and take part in that. And it's hard at times, especially I remember when I was playing basketball. We didn't have that. So some of us, the furthest we have seen is like, okay, we're gonna play for one of the best teams or play for a team within Ottawa,
Yeah.
and hopefully making it somewhere. So now since the scene has stepped up, like you have one where you have a competitive league, or should I say academy, the CTA,
Yeah.
ND. So you have that going on.
Yeah.
You also have other spots.
Big shout out to Tony House for starting Canada Top Flight Academy, which played a major role in helping some youth from our community here. Yeah, that was a big shift. You're absolutely right. And so I've collaborated with Tony House on, sorting out some of the funding to get our players there, and then just offering them the academic support through the Pathways Education program that they need, and making sure that they're able to be successful in that program. And then, he took it from there with the development and the opportunities that they had through that program, and he's done a fantastic job with that program. So yeah, we're going to see more youth that are playing at an elite level have that opportunity coming from Britannia Woods, definitely. And there's a lot of basketball talent here. There's a crazy amount of basketball talent here, actually.
There is.
It's very unique. So yeah, that's been big. And so the only other part that I help with in regards to that program is when they're done, the Pathways youth that are in that program, because my role is to help Pathways youth graduate from high school and go on to post-secondary. I have this really unique skill set where I can do the regular Pathways job, which is help you apply for university and go to a university or college, and as you know, Pathways to Education gives a small scholarship towards that. But I also do this other thing with the kids who are focused on going to a school to also play basketball. So I use my connections in Canada and the U.S. to help them get to a basketball program. So, and help with those communications, because it's really difficult for, when you have a coach calling a player, and, some of those conversations are hard to have. So I just help with those conversations. So that's where I'm supporting the family. So in the case of JD, he had a number of junior colleges that he was looking at, and then I helped him put that together. And in the end, he chose Indian Hills, which is a fantastic school. It was the one that I really wanted him to go to. And then I was able to loop Tony House back in, and we actually all met together. We went through his offers, and he made a final decision. His younger brother was there, his mother was there, and then we took a photo, and then it was announced shortly after that. So,
that's really great.
and I actually communicate with his coach, throughout the season as well. I get updates on how he's doing.
That's actually really great, just having to be, it seems like you are a pillar in the basketball community when it comes to it, as you continue to speak.
It ends up being kind of like that. So, like JD, I connected him with a trainer friend of mine who is in Orleans, and he works specifically with elite athletes. And so, if you're interested in finding out more about that, check JD's Instagram. It's all over there. But you can see the progress that JD has made. Grady also trains there too. So, so that's at Capitol Courts where the training happens. And the trainer's name is Ishmael. Fantastic trainer, a brilliant trainer actually. And so if anybody's following JD's social media, you'll see photos of him and Grady training throughout the summer, and they've just made a lot of progress. And you see the commitment level, like with somebody with JD, you might not know this, but when I started working with him, he was at, I forget if he was at Delaware or Franco West. I always get those two schools confused. I think he was at Franco West.
Yeah,
the Franco West. Yeah, he was at Franco West. So he was there, and I took a look at his grades, and they weren't, let's say they weren't impressive. But the key thing was that he was actually taking, he wasn't taking the right courses to be eligible to go to university. And more than that, he wasn't on track to be a Division I qualifier. But if you see him now, what you see is a Division I level player. So I decided to start working with him. He was with a different support worker, and we spoke, and I decided that I would take him on as a project. Because as you've seen, he's a fantastic human being. And so I started working with him, and the first thing we did, Canada Top Flight Academy had just started. We got him there, and then we started to make some changes to his academics. And we were able to get him eligible for a Canadian university, but also eligible for a junior college. He didn't have enough time to meet the NCAA eligibility requirements. So this might all sound confusing and probably not interesting, but the thing was teaching him how to be a student, how to study.
Where he's at right now?
Where he was before.
Where he was before.
When I started working with him. So he was just going into grade 11 or 12. I'm getting old, so I forget the timeline sometimes. But the point is that we didn't have enough time to get him eligible for Division I. But we had enough time to build some really good and fundamental skills in the classroom, which he didn't have. He didn't have good study habits, and he wasn't ready to be a university or college academic. But he was willing to work, and that was the key. So this is one of those situations where basketball was a source of motivation, and basketball was where we started to build our relationship. And from that, we built out all of these other skills. And what you see now is a university level academic. And if you've seen him train recently, he looks completely different. He has a completely different focus. And so basketball has also helped him with that. And what he looks like now is an elite athlete he's gonna make money playing pro basketball one day. And that's what he wants to do. And so he said when we first started working that that's what he wanted, and my job was to help him get that. And all he had to do was be willing to commit 100%, and he did. And so it's a huge success story, but a lot of it has to do with the work that he did, because I didn't sweat at all during that. I might have been nervous for him at times, but he put in the sweat, what we call sweat equity. He put that in, and he worked hard. So the reason that we brought him back to coach the junior team is because we want young people in the community to see examples like him, because it's his hard work and dedication that has got him to where he is. And he was in a place where a lot of our youth are in now, where they're not sure how to do it. And they just need someone like JD as an example to show them that you can do these things, whether it's basketball or something else. It's totally possible, and the resources can be there for you. There are people who want to help, and you just have to be willing to put the work in. And we're seeing that. Like your sister Esther is an example of that. Was not a huge fan of school, but at the same time was brilliant. So how do you have somebody who really doesn't love high school, but is super intelligent and is interested in going to university and interested in doing big things in life? And so what I saw was somebody who was a great writer, somebody who was a big thinker, somebody who had a huge personality, and just didn't fit into the small box that was her high school classroom. So how do you give that person opportunities to grow, and how do you reward them for being who they are when that's not really happening in the classroom? So that's my role. It's very similar, just different things. And so like JD's a success story. His brother is becoming a success story. his mother is also a success story. I don't know if you know some of the amazing things that she's done, but like, so, you know, I think the key is that the people that I work with are really incredible people. That's what I see. And I see that they're having an issue connecting to the resources and then putting in the energy to be successful. And I'm just trying to put that together. I wish I could do it in other ways, but I just do it in basketball. So in a way, like, it's cool to get compliments, but at the same time, like, I'm really not doing anything. I just do a lot of basketball stuff because I'm super limited in what I know and what I can do. But, you know, we have only so much time and only so much knowledge, and I'm just trying to do my best with what I can do.
But even with that too, it just translates as well. Because even if you're off the court, even if you're on the court, you're still impacting, you're still being involved, you're still engaged, and you are still doing exactly what probably someone else when you were back then younger didn't give you that as much as you could say. So a lot of times, as you said, there's a lot of people have potential, there's a lot of people that have talent, but if they don't have the mentorship, if they don't have the guidance, they can go astray. So you have JD, who's same thing. I remember him playing basketball. To be honest, he was garbage. He wasn't that nice. No, he wasn't that nice. But when you look at him automatically, like, he could still be who he is, and there's a lot of unlocked potential that he just needs to know and understand. And once he has the right person in his life that can exactly help him tap into that, he'll do great things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's like, that's where I think that the role of the mentor can kind of just turn that on, like turn the key in the ignition. You know, you can think about your own life, and I know that I struggle with this too. You can't do that yourself all the time. In fact, most times you can't. You know, you really need someone to do that. And even when you have a great family, sometimes the person you need to do that actually isn't in your family. It just works out that way. So it's not a knock on families, but other times that person isn't there. You know, so I think that, like, the idea of a community is so critical here, and having people in the community who are willing to make an effort to be the spark plug to get that going in somebody is just a really important thing. And, you know, it's amazing that I'm able to make a living doing this. You know, but like I said, I've never made a lot of money doing this. I don't charge for workouts or anything like that. Like, you know, when I was younger, growing up playing, the OGs on the court just said, yeah, let's play one-on-one and we'll school you, you know, like, they weren't like, oh, that's $50 an hour, you know, and that's cool. Like, I know people are like, I don't want to knock their hustle at all, people who are doing that, but that's just not my thing. That's not how I do it. I function in a different way. And so, like, you know, to go back to JD, he may not have had the skills when he was younger, but the key is that he believes that he can be successful, and he's adding things all the time, and you're really starting to see, like, this will be a great year to watch him play, because I think you're going to see he's really close to being in the, like, you know, he's not just a player with potential. He's that player now. Yeah, I think he's going to have a great year, and he's going to turn some heads, and he's going to put us on the map, you know, so to speak. So, but, like, in terms of my work with JD, in terms of my work with other youth, as a coach and as a support worker, my approach is to really just try to build rapport. And so with JD, like, he feels like family to me, you know, and I know he said the same thing, and I really appreciate that, because it's coming from that place, you know. I have a lot of love for that young man, and I know he's going to be successful. Yeah. And I feel that way about a number of other people too, you know, including you, you know.
Nah, that's really dope, because we also had an interview with him too.
Yeah.
And just seeing as much, because he's, you know, my junior, and him being my junior, like, in the community, we've always been together. And it's either basketball, if it's not basketball, it will be school, it will be something that we exactly connect on.
Yeah.
And also the mom, and also his older brother. So we came to exactly know each other through a basketball court.
Right.
And you get to know someone so much just on a basketball playing, maybe even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that you would not know outside of basketball. So from there, we just kept building. And I understand exactly what you mean, because seeing him now, how much he has developed and how much he has grown, it's crazy. I'm just like, man, I know you're my little brother, but damn, you know?
Yeah.
Man, he's like giant. I'm like,
I know,
whoa.
I
And
know.
it looks like he actually has got more height compared to before. So I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, he just looks
Man.
like that guy now, and you know, like he's gonna be successful as a player. He looks like a you know, power forward. Like he's a big dude. You know, but at the same time, like this big guy who can look so intimidating is the guy that, you know, I can't wait to get a FaceTime call from when he's at school. And he's just like a big kid, you know, and he really is one of the sweetest guys ever. And you know, when he's coaching our young people this summer, I was watching him coach. Like, it's just beautiful to watch. And it's not just him. It's you know, Ahmed, who we call Merc, you know, is also what I would consider a community builder here, and he's been involved and he's helped coach. And obviously Mohammed Sofa. And Madawak has been involved, you know, and I can go, you know, a little further back, you know, Victor, you know, these are people that have put time and energy, who are directly from the community, put time and energy into our youth, and you know, and so I've helped try to facilitate that too, because I think that's really important. Like, I'm a transplant, you know, I'm originally from downtown Toronto. I don't live in this community. When I'm done work, I go to another community. But these individuals who I'm referencing, they live here or live, you know, around the corner, and they're here all the time. Like, they're here 24/7, and these are valuable resources. So when JD comes back for the summer, it's a big thing, you know. It's a big thing for him to coach these young people. I think that that coming back and giving back is so critical in the way that you guys are doing this.
Yes, it is.
You know, and like there are amazing people here, and we need to highlight those people. You know, and I want to give a shout out to Lual Lekat as well, who's at State Fair Community College right now in his first year of junior college. He also played at Canada Top Flight Academy. He also played on our Ritchie teams. I've worked with his siblings. I'm still working with his siblings.
He has many.
Yeah, many, and he will continue to have many.
The whole boatload.
You know, and then also he is a musician, and he's very savvy with his marketing skills. Like, these are really valuable skills, you know. Maniac, you know, Metro, also another example of somebody who has been trying to find ways to express himself and grow and put the community on the map in their own way, you know. And so these are really important things. And you know, like, you can be critical of the way people are doing some of the things that they're doing, but at the same time, like, I think the spirit of it is to rep the community in the most positive way that individual can, you know, and to highlight their lived experience of being here, because it's an experience. Like, I know I don't live here, but I know well enough to know that if you grew up here, there's a certain soul, a certain spirit about these city blocks, and they have value. You know, they have value that is lasting.
No.
You know, and so.
And among this community, no matter what, like, this community. Yeah, so just like among this community, there's like, it's always mentioned, no matter where you're at, you always hear about Ritchie.
That's right.
So it speaks about, you know, those that also live here and those that are active within the community and adding on value to it. So my other question would be for you, what advice would you give someone seeking either mentorship, either someone to coach or any other area?
Like somebody in the community who's looking for.
Yeah, in the community, or just someone that's coming to you that's also, like, let's just say from not just this community, like you have Ramsey, you have Penny, and you have all the other communities.
And they want to get into it?
Yeah.
You know, anybody who is trying to get involved in a positive way in anything that I'm doing, we have, you know, I can facilitate that. You know, I'm happy to try to incorporate them like I said, I just have a little thing that I'm doing, and um, it, but I encourage people to find their own little thing. You know, there are so many more opportunities that could be created. So I would probably say to those people, like, I'm happy to take on anyone who wants to volunteer with me, but more importantly, maybe you could start your own thing. And any way I can help you do that, then I would be willing to help. But I think the more people that see the type of value that we see here and want to help grow that or document it, the better. You know, it's really, really important. There's so many positive things to highlight here. There's so many really important and interesting people here, and they deserve the proper shout out. You know. So yeah, anybody who is down to be involved, who has the time and energy, who feels a passion for it, who wants to connect, who wants to get the benefit that I've gotten out of working with people, like to be able to say, I was a part of that, I feel good about the work that I'm doing, I feel good about the connections that I'm making, I feel like I'm doing positive things, and you know, like anybody who wants to do that, there are ways to connect, you know, and maybe the first way is just walk into this community house and introduce yourself. Speak to Muhammad Sofa. But it's here, and there's work that needs to be done. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about that. So, you know, for us, like, we just did a summer league basketball thing, and the thing that I liked about it was that it was free. That was the key. Initially, it was just an opportunity to, you know, I could have coached an AAU team or a club team in the spring and summer instead, but I wanted to do this, and I wanted to work with the youth that were here. So
is that going to be like a summer?
We've been doing it. So this is like this was my 7th season, but now what's happening is I'm kind of transitioning out of the coaching, and some of those younger people that I mentioned who like Madawak played, JD played, they played for these teams, and when I started coaching those teams, my philosophy was, it doesn't matter if this is a league that happens at the Boys and Girls Club. This is basketball, and there's a certain level of respect that you have to bring to this. So I'm here, and I'm coaching this the same way that I coach as an assistant coach at the University of Ottawa, the same way that I coach my basketball program in Toronto. I didn't half step at all. I came with a practice plan, and I expected everybody to be there and be there on time, and I was going to coach. And so my philosophy is, if you're a baller, somebody's going to listen to this and they'll be like, oh, I've heard this speech a million times. But you know, this is my philosophy. If you're a basketball player, you're either just a basketball player or you're a baller. And so some people just pick up the ball and they go and they play. And that can be that can even be somebody who's playing at, you know, a fairly high level, but they're probably not being successful there. Or it can be the kid that you see at the local YMCA who doesn't have very many skills. That's a basketball player, somebody who likes basketball. They show up. And then you have ballers. And for ballers, it is a lifestyle. Basketball is as much a part of their life as anything else. And in some cases, probably in most cases, it's the most important thing. They're married to the game. And they're going to let that game inform who they are as a person. So no matter where they go after, yes, how I got into coaching, that's how I got into coaching. I'm a baller. I'm a hooper. I'm addicted to basketball. I want to watch basketball all the time. I want to talk about basketball all the time. I want to be around basketball all the time. It's a problem, you know? But that's because basketball has given me so much. It's so much a part of my identity. I don't know what I would do without it. So I just keep returning to it for more information about how I'm going to grow and who I'm going to be. And so I went from playing to coaching to kind of managing. And I don't know what comes next, but I can tell you it's going to involve some basketball. You know, and so even though it was a summer league team 7 years ago, I walked in the gym. Muhammad Sofa asked me if I would be willing to help coach, and I decided that I decided it was going to be part of my like summer pathways to education work, because most of the people on the team were on my caseload. I thought this would be good. I'll stay with them. I'll stay with these guys over the summer, and we'll continue to work together and connect. But I coached it like I've coached any team, so I didn't care that it was, just this little summer league team that shouldn't matter. I coached it like it was something really important, and I wanted to find out who the ballers were. So that's how I know that JD's a baller. That's how I know some of those guys are going to continue to be involved in basketball. So what I'm doing now is working with Muhammad Sofa to have more of the people who've been involved coach and work with the youth and take on the mentorship work, and I'm kind of just watching that develop. So I think that silly little summer league team has become kind of like a little bit of a culture. And obviously a lot of those guys go off and they do amazing things. But I think it started with this very, very grassroots, team.
Well, thank you so much. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for being here today, for your time, and for sharing so many stories. I know there's more to come, so maybe we'll have another day, another time we have another interview to see how things are going. But is there any way that people can reach you if they want to be involved in such? Or
Yeah, I think if you want to be involved in stuff that's happening in Ritchie, come down to the community house. If you want to hit me up at Pathways to Education, I'm at Pinecrest Queensway Community Health Center. I would give my stuff, but anyway, you can you can find me. The people that need to find me. But I thank you for making me feel like a celebrity for a day. I appreciate having me.
You're an OG in the community. Forget celebrity. You're an OG. You're an OG. So that's it. We just want to celebrate you and celebrate your life, because what's the point of living if you do not impact or influence other people to do, more than what other people might have said or whatever it may be. So this one is really great, and we really appreciate your time. So once again, if you want to reach him, you can reach him at Pathways, or come down to the community and get involved and be involved and more involvement. So thank you so much.